Ave Regina, Mater misericordiae, vita dulcedo, estes nostra salve.
The Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Matthew. Some of the scribes and Pharisees said to Jesus, "Teacher, we wish to see a sign from you." He said to them in reply, "An evil and unfaithful generation seeks a sign, but no sign will be given it, except the sign of Jonah the prophet. Just as Jonah was in the belly of the whale 3 days and 3 nights, so will the Son of Man be in the heart of the earth 3 days and 3 nights. At the judgment, the men of Nineveh will rise with this generation and condemn it, because they repented at the preaching of Jonah. And there is something greater than Jonah here. At the judgment, the queen of the south will rise with this generation and condemn it, because she came from the ends of the earth to hear the wisdom of Solomon. And there is something greater than Solomon here." The Gospel of the Lord. The people of Israel in the book of Exodus, they're the story of all our lives. A story of God trying to craft a relationship of trust between him and his dear children. And so they come to a point of decision at the edge of the Red Sea, and they're complaining that they want to go back to slavery. It's rather odd, but I was thinking this is the plight of any addict. They want to be rid of their addiction, but they keep going back. But it's not just for the addict. It's the way of all of us at some point. Instead of pressing on in obedience and fidelity, we want to go our own way. And this is what the people of Israel do. They're set against a great force, and they want to compromise. They want to turn away from obeying God because they don't believe, they don't trust. And if we're not careful, this happens to us. We lose our trust, and then we stop obeying God, and we go our own way because we think that's what will work, and it doesn't. In some ways, I was reminded this morning of the vows that married couples take. It's our relationship also between God and his people. That's why marriage is a sacrament. In human relationships, especially in marriage, the beauty of God's relationship with his people is lived out in a sacramental way. And so here are the people of Israel at the edge of the Red Sea, and now they have to think of the words, for better or for worse, for richer or for poorer, until death, the army of Pharaoh right behind us. Are we going to obey, or are we going to go our own way? An interesting thing I read also this morning is because sometimes we can be swayed by the teaching of the world instead of gritting our teeth and offering it up. Remember that phrase? Instead of offering it up and saying, I'm going to be with Christ on the cross. It's safer there. But Harry Truman said this, a few years back. How far would Moses have gone if he had taken a pole before leaving Egypt? And so Jesus challenges the Pharisees this morning. You seek a sign. The sign is the obedience of Jonah, even under duress. The sign is a people who were seemingly hopeless, the Ninevites, who are rescued because of the obedient act of one man. Does it sound familiar? It's the sign then of a people, the people of Israel, but the new Israel is the church. It's a sign of a church and her army willing to march where the Lord says, no matter how countercultural it is in the milieu we live in, but to be faithful. And it's easy to cast aspersions upon political leaders. If we spent as much time being critical of the politics and the politicians as we did praying, we probably would be a lot better off. And so instead of crying out in fear, we cry out to the Lord, not asking for a sign, but saying, Lord, I'm going to give you a sign. My sign is fidelity.
Regina Celi, letare, alleluia, qui aquam meruisti